Hello guys, let's talk about negative integers and fractions as exponents. In the last video session, we left on law number 4, where we said AB in a bracket to the power n, the n can distribute inside to give a to the power n times b to the power n. Now, law number 5 is similar to law number 4. The only difference is that instead of two integers multiplying each other, this time they are dividing each other. So how do we apply this to a fraction or to integers dividing each other? It's still the same thing. Here, the n distributed inside is the same. The n will distribute inside. So that's law number 5. So let us do examples. These two will distribute inside. We are going to have 3 to the power 2 divided by 2 to the power 2. And 3 to the power 2 is 9. 2 to the power 2 is 4. So this is your answer, or you can simplify it to a mixed number. This will be 2 and a quarter. Now, sometimes you are given as a decimal. You should be able to convert decimals to fractions. 0.25, that's a quarter. So this is a quarter to the power 3. Now we can distribute the 3 inside. This will be 1 to the power 3 divided by 4 to the power 3. 1 to the power 3 is 1. 4 to the power 3, that's 64. 4 times 4, that's 16 times 4, 64. This is your answer. So 0.75 squared, 0.75 is 3 quarters. So 3 quarters squared is equal to, let's distribute the 2 inside. This will be 3 to the power 2 divided by 4 to the power 2. 3 to the power 2, that's a 9. 4 to the power 2, that's a 16. This cannot be simplified further. So this is your answer. Let's finish up with this one. If you remember, the 3 will distribute to everything inside. So on the numerator, it will distribute on the negative and it will distribute on D. On the negative, if you remember, you just count how many negatives you have. We've got 3, that's odd. So this will be a negative. Then D to the power 3 divided by, this will be a 4 to the power 3. Then this will also be affected by 3. Remember, it will be multiplying. This is 4 to the power 1. So the 1 will multiply the 3 and we have 4 to the power 3. This is Q to the power 2. The 2 will multiply the 3. So you have Q to the power 6. You can further simplify it to 4 to the power 3, that's 64. Q to the power 6. So that's how you apply this law, which is the same as this. You just distribute the power inside. Now let's talk about the 6th law. The 6th law is the same as the 5th law and the 4th law. The only difference is that you are introducing a negative sign. If you remove the negative sign here, you invert this. This is what happened here. We removed the negative sign and we inverted the base. This whole thing is the base. Or if you are given a fraction like this, if you introduce a negative sign here, you invert. What are we saying? Each time you apply or remove a negative from the power, you invert the base. So before we do any calculations, let's just show examples of inverting 7/8. If you invert 7/8, it will become 8/7. You invert it. 1 1/2. Now this is a mixed number. You have to create a proper or an improper fraction first. 2 times 1, that's 2, plus 1, that's 3. So we have 3/2. So 1 1/2 is the same as 3/2. So 3/2, if you invert it, is the same as 2/3. An ordinary number like 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10, or up to infinity, an ordinary number like this is the same as 10/1. So if you invert an ordinary number, you get 1/10. The same with variables. An ordinary variable like this is the same as c/1. So if you invert it, it's 1/c. Let's finish up. VW, if you invert it, you get W/V. Minus m/2, if you invert it, you get 2/-m. Now that you know how to invert, let us do our calculations. Let us solve this. Remember what we said. You just remove the negative sign. After you remove, you invert whatever is left. Okay, so if we remove this negative sign, we are going to be left with 1/x⁴. Here, if you remove the negative sign, you'll be left with 1/x². Here, if you remove the negative sign, you'll be left with 1/x⁴. Remember, what was left here was x⁴ when you remove the negative sign, so you invert the whole thing. Okay, here, when you removed the negative sign, you were left with x², so you had to invert the whole thing. Let us solve this one. Let us remove the negative sign. If you remove remember, the negative sign is applying to the bracket. The negative sign is applying to the bracket. So if we remove it, we invert this bracket. So if you remove that, you'll be left with 8/3². So now the 2 can distribute inside. 8², that's 64. 3², that's a 9. 9 into 64, that's 7 into 63, remainder 1. Next one, this negative is affecting the bracket. So let's remove the negative and invert the bracket. We removed the negative. Now let's invert the bracket. Now these 3 can distribute inside. Two to the power 3, that's an 8. 5 to the power 3, that's 125. This cannot be simplified any further. This negative is also applying to the entire bracket. So let us remove it. Now we have removed the negative, so let's invert whatever was inside. Now these 2 can distribute inside. So this is the final answer. Now look, this -2, the power is only affecting the x. So you have to be very careful. This is y times x to the power minus 2. Now you can clearly see that this minus 2 is affecting this. So let's remove the negative. Y times 2. When you remove the negative, you invert whatever was inside. So we removed, now you invert whatever was inside. This will simplify to y times, let's distribute the 2 inside, 1 squared over x squared. This will be y times 1 over x squared. You can simplify it to y over x squared as your answer. Okay, the last one. This will be 9 times, let's remove the minus, then we invert this because this minus 5 is only applying to the x. So it will be 1 over x to the power 5. So this will be 9 times 1 to the power 5 over x to the power 5 is equals to 9 times 1 over x to the power 5. We can simplify this to 9 over x to the power 5. Okay, so let's finish up with law number 7. This law is now explaining if you've got a fraction as a power. Okay, we are going to use it to talk about square roots and cube roots. It says when you have a fractional power, the numerator of that fraction is the power. Then the denominator of that fraction is the root. In a visual way, x to the power a over b is equal to the bth root of x to the power a. Now, it doesn't matter if you apply the root first, then at the end you apply the power. Or if you start by applying the power, then you apply the root last. So let us start by using this. We said when you are given a fractional power, this is a power and this is a root. So this 2 means is the square root of the whole bracket. 25 over 9. Then this 1 means it's the power of the whole bracket to the power 1. So you can apply the power first. 25 to the power 1, 9 to the power 1, nothing will change. It will be just a 25 over 9. After applying that, you can apply the square root. Square root of 25, this can be simplified to square root of 25 divided by square root of 9. Square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 9 is 3. So your answer is 5 over 3. Or you can put it as a mixed fraction. 3 into 5, that's 1. Remainder 2 is a mixed fraction. Now, apart from the method we just learned, you can also calculate this in this way. It's just the same as 5 to the power 2 divided by 9 is the same as 3 to the power 2. Then the outside we've got a fraction of a half. Remember, this outside fraction can be distributed inside. We've just done that law. So this is 5 to the power 2 times half. Power and power will multiply. 3 to the power 2 times a half. So 2 times half, that's 1. So we'll be left with 5 to the power 1 divided by 2 times half, that's 1. So we'll be left 3 to the power 1. So this will be a 5 over 3, again just the same as that. And you get the same answer. let's apply law number 7 again. So if you remove the minus sign, you invert whatever is being affected by the minus sign. So I have removed the minus sign, so I'll invert everything in the bracket. 49/16. Now this says half just means square root of. So I'm looking for the square root of 49/16. Everything is to the power 1, so I don't need to write it when everything is to the power 1. So square root of 49 divided by square root of 16, square root of 49, that's a 7, square root of 16, that's a 4. Or we can simplify it to 4 into 7, that's 1 3/4. Alternatively, after you have removed the negative sign, you got 49/16 to the power half. Then everything inside the bracket, you can change it. This 49 is actually 7 squared divided by 4 squared multiplied by the power half. So the power half can distribute itself inside, and you get 7 to the power 2 times half divided by 4 to the power 2 times half. And 2 times half, that's 1. So this is 7 to the power 1 divided by 2 times half, that's 1. So 4 to the power 1. So you are left with 7/4, which also simplifies to 1 3/4. So let's do 2 more examples. Now I want to do the cubed, not the square. So we said this is the power, this is the root. So this just means you are looking for the cube root of 27 to the power 1. This is the power, this is the root. So this is the root, this is the power. 27 to the power 1 is still 27. So this just simplifies to cube root of 27. What's cube root of 27? A number that multiplies itself 3 times to get 27 is 3. Alternatively, you could have calculated it this way. 27 is 3 to the power 3. Multiply by a third, power a third. Power and power will multiply, or we say this will distribute inside. So this will be 3 to the power 3 times a third. 3 times a third, that's 1. 3 to the power 1 is equals to 3. Let's finish up. So they are saying they've already given you a cube root of 64/125, the whole bracket to the power -1. So I think it would be wise to remove the negative first. So if we remove the negative, this will be left as a power 1, so there's no need of writing the power. So we just remove the negative. There's just a 1 here. So if you remove the negative, you invert whatever is inside, 125/64. This will be cube root of 125 divided by cube root of 64. Cube root of 125, that's a 5. Cube root of 64, that's a 4. This will simplify to 1 1/4. Okay, what other way could we have done it? Of course, you have to remove the minus sign first. So you are going to be left with the same thing here, 125/64. Now, remember, cube root is just means 1/3 as a power. So this was going to be 125/64 to the power 1/3. And this will be 125 is 5 to the power 3, 64 is 4 to the power 3. Then you distribute the third inside. This will be 5 to the power 3 times a third. the powers are multiplying each other. 4 to the power 3 times a third, and this will simplify to 5 to the power 1 divided by 4 to the power 1, and this is just a 5 divided by 4, and this will simplify to 1 and a quarter. Okay, so let us finish with some bonus random examples. Let us calculate this quickly. What is square root of 0.49? You need to know how to convert this into a fraction. As a fraction, this is a 49 over 100. So we are actually looking for a square root of 49 over 100. And this will be a square root of 49 divided by square root of 100. Square root of 49, that's 7. Square root of 100, that's 10. We can do this in a different way. Square root, remember we said it means to the power half. 0.49 is 49 over 100. So you just put it as to the power half. Then 49 is 7 squared. 100 is 10 squared. You multiply that by the power half. So this will become 7 to the power 2 times a half divided by 10 to the power 2 times a half. 2 times half, that's 1. So this will be 7 to the power 1. So it's just a 7. 2 times half, that's also a 1. If you multiply a number by its inverse, you get a 1. So this will become 10 to the power 1, or just a 10. Now, this is a half. So what do we do? If we remove this, we invert. So we have removed, so let's invert, and you are getting 2 over 1. Let's apply the 3 inside. This will be 2 to the power 3 divided by 1 to the power 3. 2 to the power 3 is 8. 1 to the power 3 is 1. So your final answer is just an 8. Alright, number 4. Number 4 is saying 49 times this bracket is to the power minus 2. So let us remove the minus sign first. This will be 49 times the bracket to the power 2. We have removed the minus, so let's invert whatever was inside. This will be 2 over 7. Now let us distribute the 2 inside. This is 49 times 2 squared divided by 7 squared. So what do we get? This is 49 times what's in the bracket, 2 squared, it's a 4, 7 squared, it's a 49. Okay, so if you are multiplying two fractions and a numerator and a denominator, they are the same, they can cancel each other out. You are left with 4 over 1, which is just a 4. Okay, the last 2 examples of this session. 4 squared times 2 squared. Now, if you remember that law, AB to the power n is the same as A times B to the power n. This n can be distributed inside to create similar powers, bases with similar powers. It doesn't matter if the bases are the same or not. We are dealing with this law going backwards. So basically what this is 4 times 2 to the power 2. This 2 was distributed inside to give you this. So 4 times 2, that's 8. So it's 8 to the power 2, and your final answer is 64. Okay, last one. Write as a product of powers. Okay, and if you remember, we said A times A, power n and m. If the powers are the same, we get n plus m. So this is basically the idea of what we want to do. So you can say 6 times 6. If I put a 1 here, how do I get a 5? 1 plus 4 will give me a 5. So this is one of the answers. Or I can say 6 times 6. What happens if I put a 2 here? How do I get a 5? 2 plus 3. That's another way. Or I can say 6 times 6 times 6. Let's say I put a 1 here. I can put a 2 and a 2. 2 plus 2 plus 1. That's a 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All the 6's being to the power 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If they add, you don't need them to be 6. They have to be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you add these, you will get a 5. So all these are the possible answers.